Grafton Planning Board to order. We're doing this per the governor's guidance remotely. Zoom. Chris, how about you going through? Check.
Yep, so it's remote participation. I'll be monitoring the chat as well as the raise hand feature. So if needed to participate, I'll be monitoring those. There's also the Q&A that I'll be monitoring. So if you want to use that feature in order to participate, the flow will be similar to a regular in-person meeting where we ask that the comments that are made will be recognized by the chairman, and then you'd be given ability to speak. We can also promote attendees, i.e. the public, to the live chat feature if that's preferred. So in terms of that, I think that's covers most of it, and then we just need a roll call. Would you like me to go through that?
Yes,
All right, so we have Chairman Robert Hassinger,
I'm here.
Member Linda Hassinger,
Here.
Vice Chair David Robbins,
I'm here.
Clerk Justin Wood,
Here.
Member Prabhu Venkataraman,
Here.
Member Vikram Dave.
Present.
We have Paul Chason,
I'm here.
Stephen D'Angelo,
I'm here.
and Natalia Allward, staff.
Mr.
First
Chair,
Hmm?
Chris did miss James Tatro, who's also on. the
Oh,
call.
sorry, correct. And then James Tatro.
Here.
Okay. Our first item is public input. This is where if someone from the public wants to talk to us about something that's not on tonight's agenda, this is their opportunity. Let us know. Well, is there anybody?
Just us for now.
Okay, apparently not. All right, action item. Definitive plan for 88 Adams Road.
Just
We
give
have
me-
a draft decision. Has everyone taken a look at it? Does anybody have any questions or comments or input? I think Chris had a question about a condition. Condition B5. Chris,
Yes, I believe that was addressed. Sorry, I'm just going through screens here. So I'm working from one screen tonight.
I can share it if you want, Chris.
Yeah, let me change permissions to allow that. Yeah, so you should be able to now. Yep.
And condition B5, you said, Bob?
that's what he sent. Yeah, I think it may involve more than just number 5, but I have B5. I think you're referring to the plan should be revised to sequentially reflect the sheet numbers cataloged on the cover sheet, which will include a new sheet as identified in condition B. Well, I thought maybe these others might make a difference. You had a question or some uncertainty, Chris?
I think we so that was part of, I think the applicant had a comment and we for sheet number, and we did revise that to be the appropriate sheet number.
We don't have an open question here.
No, I
We
don't.
don't on the applicant's part, I can say we don't.
Okay. Uh, any- Anybody have anything they want to do with this decision? Other than vote on it?
Are we all comfortable with what was written in for the waivers? You know, we discussed this a bit at the last meeting about basically providing the rationale for the waiver.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's good enough. What do you think, Dave? You've looked at these a lot.
Yeah, I will confess that I didn't read through this very closely prior to the meeting, but just looking at it now, I think it appears that's what is in there now is what we felt was missing in the previous draft.
I agree.
Okay. If nobody has anything else to talk about, including the applicant,
I would offer a motion to
approve the decision.
make the findings find favorably, as it were, on findings F1 through F13 to grant the requested waivers W1 through W10 based on the rationale provided or the rationale as written in the decision, and to grant the application for approval of a definitive subdivision plan with conditions as drafted, subject to any further discussion at this meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none. Hey,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Linda,
aye.
Prabhu,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries. Decision is granted, is approved.
I want to thank the board very much for their time at points. I was wondering how this would turn out, but I think you've made this a better plan than initially was presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Be patient.
for your patience. This may go down in the books as one of the longer projects. Okay,
Thank you.
Just as kind of a side note, I was looking at a decision the other day where the preliminary application was first filed in 1985 and the definitive plan was finally approved in 1992.
which one was that? Was that Foster Yeden's?
I'm thinking, no, I was looking at Art Lot Acres.
Oh, yeah. When I came on the board in 91, that has sort of gone dormant. And then they discovered that the layout that they had before went through a wetland or something like that. So they started over again, but under the auspices of the new, what was then brand new element opportunity.
Yes, occasionally it can take some years for a subdivision plan to come to fruition.
Well, I think maybe that gap in there was through a down cycle in the housing market, wasn't it? Late 80s.
The housing market was pretty hot in the late 80s, and I think after about 1990, it kind of turned down a little bit.
I seem to remember we had various things that were gone dormant because of the economic situation. In any case, we're done with this one.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Now, I'll note in case anybody is watching like Rob, But we do have a request to continue the Wheeler Road hearing until the next time. So we won't, well, we'll decide at 7:30 about that. But I assume we'll be continuing without taking your testimony.
Oh, and you made me a panelist and everything?
Hey, listen, you know, a step at a time. Yeah, well, we gotta come into this, work into it. But I think we probably will, well, we'll decide at 7:30, but I'm pretty sure I know what's gonna happen, just so you were aware.
Okay, thanks.
Which brings me to what else we can do. Bills, I think there were some bills.
There
was
were.
a bill. There was a bill.
I move that we accept and approve the bills as presented to us in meeting materials.
But would that be approved?
Yes, approve.
Does someone want to
Second.
move and seconded? Natalie can flip a coin on who got it.
Yeah. My ego's not involved.
Was that?
I don't need to be at the second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Dave,
Aye.
Dustin,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Prabu,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Bills are approved. Minutes of previous meetings. We didn't have any, did we?
Don't see any.
Staff report.
So we're continuing to work. I did submit the local rapid recovery planning application on behalf of the town. So we're looking to hear back from that. I think I spoke briefly on previous meetings. That'll hopefully bring us in coordination with presumably CMRPC, our regional planning agency, or a similar entity that the state will pair us with, and we'll be looking to develop a plan for rapid recovery of economic sectors and essentially the town's economy and housing moving forward in relation to COVID-19. So more updates when we hear back from the state on that. I did we looked at routes when I created the zones for that, looking at it. It's essentially, I did a corridor of Route 122 and Route 30, which essentially touches all of our major higher density areas and economic cores. And so hopefully that'll be a good way of looking at a town-wide recovery and serving the community as a whole. Other than that, we are working through some, we'll call it staffing considerations in terms of the planning department currently that are affecting capacity. So I would just ask for a little bit of flexibility from applicants and staff moving forward as we work to get capacity back to where we were, just in terms of remote work and other considerations. So that's all I have.
Anything else on staff report?
No.
Correspondence. Is there something in correspondence?
I didn't see anything noteworthy. It was nothing more than notices from the city of Worcester.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you want to hit the discussion items, Bob?
Yeah, it's what I'm, let me see. Yeah, I did skip that. I don't know how much we have to say tonight about it. Do we?
Nothing more on mill redevelopment, Bob or Chris?
No, so I've been meaning to get into the materials that CMRPC provided and reach back out, but I haven't had an opportunity yet. So hopefully in the coming weeks, I'll be able to get a little more progress on that.
On subdivision rules, if we're ready to get into that topic,
Yeah.
we still need to find maybe dedicate some time to going over in some detail all the proposed revisions so far. But in the interest of making some forward progress, based on what the memo I wrote up not too long ago regarding curb rules and on some of our recent actions on waivers for curbs, I would like to propose that we revise our curb rules and subdivision rules to generally allow vertical granite, sloped granite, and bituminous concrete throughout the subdivision, basically leaving the choice up to the applicant, with the exception of those areas, intersections, curves, and grades where we do want to, I think we do want to insist on granite. And this kind of, would make our, our rules a little bit more consistent with those of a lot of other towns. And the one other item I would suggest is that where we require granite curbing on roads with a considerable grade, that we change our 2% to 5% to be more consistent with the majority of communities that I've looked at. So these are, for the most part, I think these are kind of in line with, like what we allowed for the ridings. And I think we've, in some other cases, we've allowed similar flexibility. And so that's sort of not a very dramatic change. And after reviewing what other communities are doing, it seems to me like if we go in this direction, we give the applicants a little bit more flexibility while still retaining our basic requirement that there be curbs along all roads in the subdivisions and that there be granite curbs of one type or another where granite is important. So if we can talk about it a bit, but if we're generally comfortable with that in principle, I can write that up, add that to the draft revisions.
I think that's a good idea.
And we can review it in detail
Yeah.
at some point.
I think that's a good idea. The only thing I was gonna say is if we're doing that in the short term, I do want to see us at the very least, which I think was in your initial drafts anyway, was the expanded definition on the dead end street, just so that we had the more concise definition that is consistent with how we've interpreted it recently.
Yes, that's already in my proposed revisions.
Okay. I guess the question would be, if we're going to have other things besides these that we want to do anytime soon, are we going to make all the changes at once, or are we going to divide and conquer? Because you'll have we'll vote to change some. We'll have a hearing. I think we have to have a advertised hearing.
We do.
And then we vote, and then so there'll be a revision of the rules. But then if we have another one in a few weeks or months, that'll be another revision of the rules.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm kind of hoping
I'd
we
like to see
get,
some progress.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to drag this out forever. I'd like to actually get something done. And there may be some items that we want to deliberate on for longer, and we may be able to wrap much of it up, with the exception of some things that we may want to take our time in trying to work out what we want to change. But for the most part, I'd like to fold as much into one set of revisions as we reasonably can, just without dragging it out for another year.
Well, do we have more pregnant possibilities.
I think we may.
Okay, so
another
we
one-
can write this up, but it won't be action time yet.
Right, I'd say, this, if everybody, this seemed to me to be pretty straightforward for the curbs. I have no problem. I can write that up and then that'll be ready within 2 weeks for additional review. One other item that at least part of it seems fairly straightforward has to do with intersection separation. Again, referring to the memo I wrote, which, kind of, saw what other communities are doing. There's sort of two major pieces to that. One is probably fairly non-controversial. The other one we want to think about a little bit more. The one that seems more straightforward is this idea of what in the memo a lot of communities are calling the jog, whereas the distance between roadways that come into a through street from opposite sides, there's a minimum distance there. That's generally recommended for traffic safety considerations. And then the other part is the separation of streets on the same side, which is more akin to block length. We can talk about that. I didn't really want to spend much time discussing that tonight. I just thought I'd mention it, to go back and read the memo and see if maybe we can incorporate one or two things from that into the revised rules soon. The one thing that I think is more sticky is questions about dead ends. There's perhaps a number of issues that need to be worked out on that, and I haven't even formulated in my own mind an idea of what I might propose for changes there. As Justin mentioned earlier, I did into the revisions that I've already made, I've incorporated a more precise definition of how we measure dead end length to clear up some ambiguities in that regard. But the fundamental principle is in my current draft, the fundamental principle has not changed.
Okay, I guess maybe what we're gonna do is you can put forward the proposals that you're ready to put forward. And I think maybe we'll end up agreeing on some language put on our list, and build into it, add to it others before we get to the actual hearing process. In other words, we'll agree on what those are, but then hold on until we're ready to take some action. Whole thing. We should do that before Election Day.
Yep. Hopefully we can make enough progress in this to where we feel we've got a good update that we're ready to put forward to the public before too many more weeks elapse.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Anything else you'd like to suggest that I look at language for? As it is, I've got a little something to work on now between now and next time.
I'm sure you need that. Let's see, we have 6 minutes to go.
Reports from planning board members on town
Yes,
committees and CMRPC.
Aware, yes. Are there reports? Let's have any reports. How's the library doing?
I could not make it on Monday, last Monday for the meeting. So I don't have an update, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been looking at the pictures they publish online, on the social media from time to time, and a lot of work going on in there. I like, there was one picture, someone standing in the old main room, looking through what's now been opened up of an archway with the old clock above it, and then down the new center of the new section with the skylights, and that was, I kind of liked that, the way it was pulling together the old and the new. So it's coming along. I don't remember what the finish is supposed to be on the low side towards the street. You know, there's brick on both of the building, but the section along this one story sort of,
Isn't that brick also?
well, they haven't put any brick there.
I don't know.
And they've been putting it everywhere else. So I'm thinking that there's a different, probably less expensive material there.
I
In
can
any case,
check.
doesn't change anything. Any other reports?
From the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee, we are, I think, zeroing in on having the revisions requested by the state completed. It looks like we're going to get them done before the end of the month. I've got an updated, CMRPC has been doing some good work updating various parts. I have an essentially complete updated open space inventory table. And one of the last things the committee has to do is add some priorities to the list of action items. And I just sent out to the committee today trying to find a time when the committee can actually meet to do that. And I think once that's probably, that plus, the work that CMRPC is doing, pulling it all together into a new document. We hopefully will have a complete document by the end of the month.
Seems like it's taken a long time to get this plan.
Well,
Yeah.
we kicked this effort off around the middle of 2017,
Yeah.
and here it is, 2021.
And you're supposed to update that plan, what, every 5 years? So
Correct, yeah.
you get to take a deep breath and then start on the next one.
Well, I believe the 5 years is from the state endorsement, so
Yeah.
probably gained a little bit of time by,
But if it takes 3 or 4 years to do, you need to get going.
yeah.
Um,
That's atypical of the process, but there was, I think, other considerations this
Yeah.
time. So we'll
There
go
are-
quicker next time.
There are a number of reasons why it has taken as long as it has.
Yes. Everything always takes longer than it should,
Yeah.
especially in
Okay.
government.
Yeah.
Anybody else with any other reports or updates? Any of that?
This is one other item I'll bring up. It's not exactly a report from a planning board representative or anything, but I wanted to ask the board if they would be interested. Last year, it was only a few months ago. Anyway, last year, kind of on my own initiative, I undertook to try to figure out from sort of an analytical perspective the fiscal impact of new development on school expenses and property taxes. I pretty much wrapped that up and came to some kind of interesting conclusions. The question I'm throwing out here is, would the board be interested in going over that at some future meeting?
I would,
Yes.
Yes.
I would, and then we can argue about it.
Is it?
I'd be
There's never been-
I'd be disappointed if there was no argument.
I'll
No, there's-
I'll throw it out there. Is it worth inviting the school committee to be present at that meeting to go over
Why-
if it involves the school impacts as well?
Why don't we do some of our own work first and find out what we're talking about? The school committee doesn't get any say in the way development happens. But if we find an answer to this, we'll go down in history.
I mean, you can be sure that there are no absolute definitive, exact answers. But if the board, if the board and anybody who happens to watch the meeting at which we sort of discuss this, it might end up being a topic for further discussion on various other town boards or committees. But for right now, I just thought it might be something the planning board would be interested in hearing a little bit about.
Yeah, if you have something written up, you can send it around, but
Yep.
regardless.
Yeah, if we want to put that on an agenda for a either our next meeting or some other meeting, depending upon what we have time for. This, I'm guessing if we, to go through, to go through what I've worked up and to talk about it, we probably want to be, we're looking at least a half an hour.
I suggest you work with Chris about when that would be a good
Yeah,
place.
just,
It could happen.
Find a time to schedule it. I do have something written up. And if we put it on an agenda, we'll circulate that a few days ahead of time.
Okay, it is now public hearing time. And for the reason I mentioned earlier, I'll go to 6B, which is the Wheeler Road subdivision, definitive plan approval. And we have a letter from them, Chris.
Yep, so they've requested a continuance to our next meeting. As the board remembers, there were some revisions to the plans that we were looking for. And also working on the details of the agreement between the waiver request and the associated either donation of land to the, or donation of in-kind to the Grafton Land Trust. And so those still need a little bit of work prior to the board's approval. So those, they requested a continuance.
So I'll move that we accept the applicant's written request to continue the hearing until January 25th, 2021 at 7:30 PM.
I think we're granting their request.
Granting, yes.
Second.
And moved in second. Is there any discussion? Nobody? Dave,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Pablo,
Aye.
I vote aye. I'll continue to the next meeting. Next available meeting. Which brings me to special permit SB 2020-09 at 7 Alana Drive. Application for an accessory apartment property there. I guess we need to have a reading of the notice.
Yes. Pursuant to sections 1.5.7 and 1.3.3 of the Town of Grafton zoning bylaws, the planning board will hold a public hearing on Monday, January 11, 2021, commencing at 7:30 PM to consider the application for a special permit request for an accessory apartment at the property located at 7 Alana Drive, shown as Grafton Assessor's Map 89, Lot 124. Said property is located in a low-density residential R40 zoning district. The applicant owners are Stephen and Theodora D'Angelo. Copies of the application and plan are available for public inspection on the Town of Grafton website at www.grafton-ma.gov on the Planning Department Development Projects webpage. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March stay-at-home advisory, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Please see www.grafton-ma.gov/planning board for more information.
Okay, Chris, do you have anything to say first?
Yeah, so we did receive comments back from conservation and zoning. So in reviewing the plans, conservation noted that there would need to be a filing with them as it is in the wetlands. That's obviously a separate process, but to be noted. And then the zoning, they were clarified the setbacks in terms of the front yards and rear yards being a corner lot. And since it is in the water supply protection overlay district, that the impervious and pervious calculations need to be provided.
Okay. Applicants, want to talk to us about this?
Sure. Well, first, let me just say that my wife and I have lived in Grafton for over 21 years, and specifically at this residence for over 11 and a half years. And, you know, my parents are approaching 80. They're at the point where they're finding it more increasingly difficult to maintain their own home. So we had invited them to, you know, try this process and try to put an addition on our house for them. So we have, you know, we've come up with a plan as you know, everyone has seen. We're also looking to add on to our main house as part of this. So enlarging our kitchen, dining room, living room area. In addition, we are planning to finish our basement as well. And then that will kind of give us overall for the main house, about 3,000 square feet of finished living area. Then, you know, so the addition itself, we're looking at about 1,385 square feet. And let's see, I've jotted down some notes here, so just trying to make sure. Let's see, so the addition itself is designed to be accessible from the interior of the main house. And it was designed with all of the same finishes as the exterior main house, clapboard siding, roofing, trim, paint, etc. So it just appears as it's, you know, one house. You know, it doesn't have any other different distinguishing features. It is set back about 1 foot from the main, you know, face of the house, which is similar to the garage, how that setback is. That one I think is maybe 3 feet. And then we've also designed the deck to extend uninterruptedly along the entire back of the house. Again, to kind of, you know, so it's appearing as one main house. Let's see. We believe that the design will increase the value of the house, have a positive effect on the market value in other homes in the neighborhood as well. You know, we have done some limited research just in the area with other houses that are over 3,000 square feet. And, you know, we found that their assessed values are higher than ours now. As far as, you know, some things with maybe traffic and safety, the driveway as designed exists onto Danielle, and at its nearest point is somewhere around maybe 30 feet from the start of the corner. And there are other driveways that, you know, are similar or even closer to a corner. Let's see, there are unobstructed, you know, there's really no obstructions there from the corner. So that's the plan as far as, you know, that is concerned. And as far as some of the things that was just mentioned, as far as the pervious impervious on the actual plot plan, those numbers are listed in the top left-hand corner of that plan. So those calculations have already been done. And the setbacks are identified by a dotted line around the property on the plot plan as well.
You're aware that as a rule, we only allow accessory apartments under the condition of being occupied by, speaking family.
Occupied by what?
Family.
Yes.
Relationship. And it doesn't, the permit doesn't run with the property, it runs with the applicant. So you come to an issue at some point on the road if you want to sell to someone else, or if you want, you know, if the time to use it as the accessory apartment is passed. Those are restrictions that we.
Yeah, I'm not completely understanding what you're saying. I mean, you know, the intended use is for my parents.
Right, but a special permit is forever.
Right.
And there's always the concern that an accessory apartment for the in-laws turns into a rental unit down the road, which is not. I don't think in my time on the board, we've ever approved that, except maybe once in R20 where actually duplexes are allowed. But
Mhm.
so that doesn't really count. That is a limitation.
Sure. I mean, that's certainly not our intent anyway.
Look down the road, and because you're building a pretty good sized addition.
Mhm.
It's significant. And I have a couple of thoughts, but who else has questions? And do we have anybody from the public? Chris?
So I just wanted to help clarify that and make sure that that was explicitly clear, because I think we had discussed it in the, I think the applicant's aware, I think we discussed it in development team meeting, but down the line, that ability to use this as an in-law apartment, any purchaser of the home they would purchase it as a single family home. They would not be entitled to the rights of a in-law apartment or use of that space as anything other than a single family home without coming to the board for further action similar to what you're doing now. So you wouldn't be able to market it as a single family with in-law apartment. It would just be a single family home, if that's clear.
I see Natalie said something over here about also received an abutter comment. Is that a new comment?
So I believe there was a comment from abutters, which
Well, there is one from that I've seen from
Carol Erskine.
yeah. Probably not here because there was some suggestion they talk about it more, but there is a substantial concern expressed in that. One thing we need to look at. Anyway, the point is that was the comment besides the other two that we got from town departments.
yeah. So Mr. Chairman, if I may, I can address at least some of it. I think since we've discussed it.
What?
So I think the main concerns that they had in that comment is looking at the scale of the proposed addition and in-law apartment in terms of the home, the existing home. I think that's duly noted here. They did make a comment of in terms of if blasting would be used in this, and I think being the residential nature here and the existing structure being expanded and not in any way demolished, I don't think that there would be blasting proposed. The applicant can clarify, but I think that would not be something to be seen here.
Yeah, I would agree. Would definitely not as far as, what we would think.
Yeah, I might speculate that that the residents of the home currently would not be particularly pleased if there needed to be blasting within a few feet of their existing foundations.
Absolutely.
Well, yes,
Just a wild guess on my part.
blasting is not at all easy to do, but that doesn't really come under our purview. I think the fire department and the building department deal with that, and whatever you don't want to do it, find another way to get it done. Now, but the message that we have complains that it's really a second house being built on a single lot. In fact, apparently, the footprint is similar to the footprint, fairly similar to the footprint of the existing house. In other words, there's not as many square feet in the accessory apartment because it's only one floor, I think. rather than 2, but it's 1,400 square feet according to this, and so
Yeah, it's shy of
Corey up in
1385.
the current house is somewhere around that. So it's a substantial addition. And that brings me then to, well, that's where I think that the basis we use to look at this is the definition of accessory apartment in the zoning bylaw. An accessory apartment is a separate housekeeping unit, complete with its own sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities that is substantially contained within the structure of a single-family dwelling, but functions as a separate unit. So it strikes me that that's the one place. That's basically the rule he's talking about. Is this substantially within the structure of a single-family dwelling? If you think yes, then I don't know any other issues, but that's.
And is there a second proposed driveway as well?
Yes, it is the second driveway. I can't tell whether it's, there was something about, I think, garage under, but I, we don't have enough on the plan that we've got to really tell me about that. Or to actually have a very good visualization of what the overall thing is going to look like.
Yeah, so there is a garage underneath.
I think that was the other point of the abater, that the proposed driveway is too close to the corner, I think.
Right, and it's actually further, our neighbor right on the other side of Danielle, their driveway is significantly closer to that same corner
On Alana.
on Alana.
They may have a little bit more visibility, though, don't you think? We went out and took a look yesterday, but we looked at it. Does anybody else have any? Has anybody else gone out and looked? Okay, well,
I
yeah.
had one question.
Sure.
On the application, page 5 of 7, it lists, provides a list of all the waivers. And it says, so number one, it says in the application, this information is provided in the application. Not sure what exactly are these, and if this is the application, I couldn't find where is this information provided. Each of this 1 till 6, 7, it says this is provided in the application, this information is provided in the application.
I don't know off the top of my head the answer to that. I don't know if that's, I don't know what that's related to. I don't have it in front of me.
That's,
Is that part of the abutters list? I don't know.
it's,
11. Not sure.
it seems like it was from an email dated, or if the application itself dated December 10th, 2020. And it's from our zoning bylaws 1.3.3.3 D to F. And it's specifically references section D in this, if that helps Chris any to help narrow that down.
Just taking a quick look here. Item number 1, for example, in 1333D, item 1 is the name and address of the person submitting the application. So one might suggest that a waiver is not needed for all the information that is actually provided in the application. Name and address of the owner, present use of the land, proposed use of land, proposed use of buildings, and that's like 1 through 6 already. 7, zoning district, that's on the plans provided. So a lot of this is actually has been provided per the ZBL. So it's not clear to me why a waiver is requested, unless that was, the requested waivers may have been written on the assumption that there had to be like a separate document for each one of those. But in fact, that's largely, it's an itemization of information that's on the application form or otherwise in the plans. So you could go through that one by one and see, check them off. Well, this, yeah, no waiver needed here because it's, the required information is present.
Thanks, Dave. I think just listing out, that's what you're saying, right? Just listing out what is the waiver that's being requested. That should narrow down the focus for the conversation.
Yes, it certainly would have been slightly easier for us to deal with a list of requested waivers if the only things on the list were items that the applicant actually did not or chose not to provide, perhaps because, and in a number of cases, some of these items in 1333D we often do waive them because they're not applicable to the particular special permit. But this was kind of a laundry list of everything, but wherever it says the information has been provided, we can interpret that to mean a waiver is not necessary, and perhaps the applicant isn't really requesting a waiver.
I think we might need a little research, a little review, Chris,
Yep, I can do that.
before we decide anything. Does
And
any-
when I was looking at the Google Maps, and there is a fire hydrant at that corner. I'm not sure of how the proposed driveway will factor that in, if I'm looking at the right property.
It,
I believe it's on the plot plan. So if you're looking at it from the street, it's to the right of the fire hydrant.
it looks at the, I don't know if you can see my cursor,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, again.
That's right next to the driveway. That's a little tight. Comes winter. So does anyone else have any, like I do, about seeing what the structure will actually look like? Get any more sense about whether it fits within the
Well, I could point out that that we did approve a special permit for an accessory apartment under similar circumstances where the accessory apartment was in addition to an existing house. And in fact, if I'm remembering that one correctly, the addition was nearly as large as the main house. But we have approved almost the exact circumstance previously. I believe that one was on Old Upton Road.
I just received an email from the zoning officer who entertains himself by marching in this. Accessory apartment needs to be no larger than 49% of the existing dwelling. Also, in my opinion, on what constitutes an accessory apartment, incorporating in addition. Not quite sure what an input it tells me, except
right,
the 49%.
This is 49.
And this is, I think, less than 49% of the overall result. I think he's saying, well,
I think in this case, and I can clarify with the building inspector, in this case, they are expanding the existing structure and then increasing the square footage there. And then I apologize, I have to look back to see if that's where that is in relation to 50% of what's proposed in the addition. I don't recall off the top of my head. But I can double check that, and I can work with the building inspector in terms of the interpretation of if that expansion should be included in terms of calculating the 50%.
I would have liked to have seen that question resolved before this came to us.
Yes.
Well, it was.
Hmm?
Well, it wasn't so. very
Well, it
good.
wasn't. But I think I think we've got a couple of questions that have arisen that we need to get checked out before we take
And,
action.
I do
Yeah.
have one quick question that's very easy to answer, I hope, from the applicant. Is there an access point between the accessory apartment and the dwelling as it will exist after the expansion that does not involve going outside? I don't think it's not a requirement, but is there like an interior doorway that will be?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
Yeah. And we were aware of that percentage as far as the 49%. And so we believe that we are, in compliance with that. But we were taking into consideration the addition to our existing main house as well.
It probably would be helpful for this board to have as part of the record, a statement from the zoning enforcement officer that that this does comply with zoning.
Yeah, well, part of that, actually, I think he's talking about building code and that sort of thing. Because the zoning is what I read. So part of it is our judgment. Does this do what the bylaw speaks to? I'd like to see if there are any elevations or any other representations of what's going to be built, it would make it a little clearer. And if the engineer could give them in vector PDF, not scanned image, they're a little easier to read than what we've got here.
I mean, there are elevation drawings to see what everything will look like as well.
Yeah, I don't have them yet, and so I think we're talking about going till the next meeting to clear up some of this, and maybe those can be passed on to us sooner rather than later. Chris.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just wanted to clarify some of the points that the board has spoken to. And I agree, I think we do need some revisions to move forward. But in terms of the waiver request, I just wanted to point out, and thank you, Natalia, for clarifying, we do have a form for the waivers that may help for providing a clear listing of what the waiver requests are and the rationale behind them, similar to the decision we just passed. And then in terms of the 50%, I can work with that on the building inspector. And I just wanted to, again, clarify on the setbacks. It wasn't the comment from the zoning board of appeals was not that the setbacks weren't included. It was that under the corner, under our zoning, the corner lot is determined to be 2 front yard setbacks and 2 rear yard setbacks, not 2 side yard as shown on the plan. So that just needs to be revised.
Yeah, does that change it though? The numbers on the plans, I think, was telling me that side yards and backyards are both 15 feet.
I'll have to defer to the engineer when they do those. I believe, looking at the location of the house, I believe they would still have those setbacks, but obviously it'll be better to have that
It's
drawn.
mainly in what you label them, because at least the on the plan, the table of the requirements from the zoning district, side yard and rear yard are both 15 feet. And they're providing a lot more than this, so they're well within the setback requirement. They more than meet the setback requirements. It's just that from a labeling perspective, a corner lot doesn't have a side yard. It has 2 front and 2 rear yards.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're labeled as side yards, and they should be labeled as backyards, I guess. But I think that either way, the spec is 15 feet. So it has to meet the same distance, whichever we call it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what you call
If
it.
anything more subtle than that, hopefully someone will let us know for the next time. Is there anything else on this that we can do tonight? Have anything they wanna? If not, would the applicant like to request that we continue this to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
We'll need you to follow that up in writing.
Okay.
Give
Email
it-
works to Chris or the planning department. I was saying an email works to Chris or the planning department.
Okay.
that-
And that email address I can find on the website?
Worst comes to work, well, for the next week and a half, it's gonna be even trickier than usual, but we'll do the best we can. So we have a request.
I move that we accept the applicant's
Grant.
written
Grant,
grant. Thank you.
Get with the
Grant the
program,
applicant's-
you can
Justin.
accept it if you want, but we need to grant it if it's gonna do anything.
I should know better by now. I move that we grant the applicant's forthcoming written request to continue this hearing until January 25th, 2021 at 7:30 PM.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes. Without discussion, Dave,
aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Linda,
Hi.
Rob,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we'll continue to the next meeting and hopefully have it pulled together by then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else that can lawfully come before us?
I will not move that we extend the meeting past 10.
You got that right, Dave.
I will not second it.
We'd have a precedent for denying such a motion. in this particular case. No, but I can't make them, well, unless no one else wants to make the motion, then I can.
I'm willing to move that we adjourn.
I'm
Second.
glad to hear that. I assume that not only are you willing, but you just did.
Yes, you can consider it done.
Yes, and is there someone willing to?
I heard a
I
second.
think Prabhu seconded. That's not a debatable item. Dave,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Linda,
Hi.
Prabhu,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you all.